of the AFC South, predicted standings, predicted records, and then we're going to go through some superlatives: MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Breakout Player, and Coach of the Division. So we'll get to it all. Let's go.
So before we get started, we always preface this, I always start from the bottom and work our way up. And also, it's less about the actual projected record and more about the actual positioning of the teams.
For sure.
You know, give or take a loss to the Colts, I don't care. But nonetheless, the Titans in the basement, we estimate about 5-12, maybe 6-11. I'm just not sure what I'm getting.
Maybe 4-13.
Yeah, maybe 4-13, right? Give or take a win. I think that's kind of roundabout where we're at here with this team. I'm not a huge fan of what I saw on tape from Will Levis. I think the wow is there, but I think the pitfalls are also there as well. Feels a little bit like a slightly less good version of like Jay Cutler back in the day, where rocket arm can push the ball down the field, but there's just going to be too many plays where you're kind of left scratching your head. Turnovers, I think, are going to be a problem. And I'm a little bit lower on the receiving core than a lot of people are. I don't think Calvin Ridley, I don't think they have a 1. I think at this stage in their careers, Ridley and Hopkins are both 2s, and I think Burks is a 3. So I think that's a problem.
Well, really what it comes down to for me with Levis is the consistency of things. Like, you know he's going to make the big throw.
Sure.
You're going to see it on Red Zone. You're going to see it on Instagram, all the highlight reels type stuff from Will Levis, because that's the type of quarterback that he is. Very, like, flashy from play to play, but stringing together successful drives that end in points, that strategically lead you to a victory. He just doesn't have all that much of that. And I liked him coming out of college. I'm a big Kentucky fan. I liked him a lot. But I just don't see him being consistent enough to get anything meaningful done in Tennessee.
I think that's a fair take. Colts at 9-8. Look, this is one of those teams where if you told me they win 12 games, I wouldn't be surprised. If you told me they win 7 and Anthony Richardson is hurt most of the year, I also would not think that you're crazy. Now, I do like the fact that they have a real backup with Joe Flacco, but nonetheless, the Colts are, to me, feel a little bit boom or bust, and we'll kind of take it in the middle here and go with 9-8. Again, I could hear arguments for either direction. If Anthony Richardson plays, let's assume he plays most of the games, I think he's going to be a very good quarterback. I think he's dynamic. I think he's going to be probably the best running quarterback in the league this year. Yes, Lamar is great. Jalen Hurts is great. Josh Allen's great. But Anthony is that next level of athlete, and because he doesn't quite have the pocket thing figured out yet, obviously because it's only his second year, he played 4 games last year, I expect him to rely on his legs more than he probably should, but he's going to be dynamic with them, and so he'll be able to get away with most things. I think he'll get dinged up a little bit, and they'll be a good team fighting for a playoff spot.
But the thing to remember is he has a frame more so like Josh Allen than he does like a Lamar Jackson. So he's going to be more durable.
You'd think. He got hurt twice in 4 games last year, though.
Yeah, but this is also what I was leading into, going to be a huge year for him. This has to kind of be where you start to pop. At least show flashes. You don't have to go win a playoff game. You don't have to go do anything to that level yet, but at least stay healthy, show that you can play, show that your frame and the way that you play and the style of your game means something.
And it isn't a liability. I think here would be a question real quick to you. If he gets hurt, do you think he is the guy there long term? Do you think they make a decision in the room and say, we got to pivot?
I mean, it has to be. Trey Lance got one shot at it. He got hurt one time, and look at that. He never got a chance. So
correct. That was much more of a win now roster, though.
Right, but the fact that he's gotten 2 chances, maybe even have, like, if he gets hurt again this year, if you get a third chance,
what if he has season-ending injury, 3rd game of the year? Do you think that's it for him?
No, I bet you he probably comes back the year after, but that's the last straw. I don't think they go much farther past that. If it was me personally, if I were the Colts and he got hurt again, I'd move on.
I would agree. I think the Jags are in second place here. Roughly a 10-win team. Again, you could argue me either direction. Look, I just feel strongly that Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. I know there's not a lot of stats to back that up. The frame, the athleticism, the ability to throw on the run, the rocket arm, good accuracy. There are some weapons in place. Doug Peterson's a good coach with quarterbacks. 2nd year in that system. Third year now. I have no reason to believe he won't take a slight step forward. I'm just big on Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a fantastic athlete. Is he great? Maybe not. But I think he's going to be a really, really good quarterback this year.
This is another one of the teams that, like, you have to show it now. Like, it's now or never. I mean, how long do we have to let this thing kind of simmer before it finally takes
For T-Law?
and starts moving.
And this team in general?
Yeah.
This year.
It's getting
This
to
year.
the end. Now, question for you. Would it surprise you if the Jags and Colts flipped here? Because,
No, not
10
at
and
all.
7,
Not
9
at
and
all. I'm
8.
sure.
Anthony Richardson has a great season. Trevor Lawrence kind of underperforms again. Could you see it happen?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people probably in the media do have the Colts above the Jags. I feel like I've seen that more often than as we have it here.
Okay.
No, it wouldn't shock me at all. Texans, 11-6. I know a lot of people have them a little bit better. I do think it's reasonable to believe that there's going to be a little bit of a sophomore slump for C.J. Stroud. I still think he's going to be really good. I don't think there's going to be a doubt in anybody's mind there that he is the guy. I think he's going to still be, I think statistically he was a top 10 to 12 quarterback last year. I expect him to stay in that realm. I just think some of the plays down the stretch, they had a lot of last minute wins.
Yeah.
I think some of that kind of evens out a little bit. So say they stole 3 games last year on a last second possession. Do they now only steal 1 or 2 of those and it looks a little different at the overall record?
Maybe.
Yes, but I still think obviously it's a playoff team because they're winning the division. I still think it's a team nobody wants to face in the playoffs. I think D'Amico's going to get the defense fantastic. I just worry a little bit of a regression. Not much, a little bit, especially in those close moments.
Like offensive regression or just overall
CJ
team
Stroud
regression?
CJ Stroud / offensive.
Okay.
I mean, this is still, we have them a win above what they did last year. I'm sorry, 2 wins above what they did last year. So it's not crazy.
And I love CJ Stroud. I think he's going to be utterly fantastic this year. I think he'll be one of the best quarterbacks in the AFC. I think that'll kind of start to shine through more so this year than last. But, I mean, we definitely saw the progression to get to that stage last year. Obviously, they win the division. He's going to win a playoff game or 2. I think they go make some noise in the playoffs this year. I like the Texans a lot. Them at number 1 feels really good.
I agree. To run back through, Texans 11-6, Jags 10-7, Colts 9-8, and Titans at 5-12.
There we go. All right, superlative time. So we're going to start off with the MVP of the AFC South.
This is your guy, C.J. Stroud.
Yep.
I think at the end of the day, we always talk about value here. That's why you could argue Brock Purdy's the most productive player in the NFC West, but he's not the most valuable player. He's not the most valuable player on his own offense. He's not the most valuable player in his own backfield. C.J. Stroud is the most valuable player easily in this division. You could argue outside of Mahomes and maybe Josh Allen in the entire AFC. What is that franchise without C.J. Stroud? I mean, they were
Not
in
much.
turmoil with Davis Mills before they got Stroud.
Oh, yeah.
The post Deshaun Watson mini era has been horrific.
Yeah, and
horrific
it exposed a lot of
before
problems in
CJ.
the front office, a
Absolutely.
lot of different stuff. He quieted a lot of different, he put out a lot of fires.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, Offensive Player of the Year.
I would go Trevor Lawrence here almost because he got second place here for our MVP, our personal MVP voting. I think there's an argument I would switch him, but I'm more of a T-Law guy over a Stroud guy right now. I think CJ is probably a little bit better long term, but T-Law is my guy. But, this is a good nod for him to get Offensive Player of the Year. I do think he's going to be productive. I think the only way they even get close to 10 wins is if he's productive. So this is almost one of those where, he's going to have to be what we think he's going to be if we think the Jags are going to be what we think they're going to be. That makes sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, Breakout Player of the Year.
No, DPOY.
Defensive Player of the Year. There we go.
We're actually going to stay in Jacksonville. I don't think there's a ton of defensive talent here in this division. I would go Josh Hines-Allen, formerly known as Josh Allen, the edge rusher from Jacksonville. I just don't view this division as studded with any real talent. I don't.
On the defensive side of the football,
who else are we gonna pick here? Jeffrey Simmons from Tennessee, or
I think we could see one emerge on the Texans this year just because there's going to be more of a focus on
maybe
defense.
Will Anderson, the edge rusher. That would probably be our breakout player. We have a different one, but that's like a honorable mention for breakout / defensive player of the year.
So this makes sense for
I think Josh Hines-Allen's the best player.
All right, let's go Breakout Player of the Year.
I think Josh Downs in Indianapolis is fantastic. He's a wide receiver on the outside, a little bit smaller, almost like a Tank Dell type, body type.
Yeah.
Really, really productive last year. Was even better when Anthony Richardson was his quarterback. Still good with Gardner, but I think he's going to be really good this year. And look, good coaches, scheme open, good receivers. I think he's a good receiver with a great head coach that's going to get him open.
Honorable mention here. I think Anthony Richardson kind of fits in the breakout player spot pretty well too.
Sure.
If the Colts are going to get to what we think they're going to be this year, that's going to be mainly attributed to him.
Yeah.
And we haven't really seen him break out yet. So just a quick honorable mention.
I
I
agree.
throw that in. All right, let's finish things out. Coach of the division.
Shane Steichen. Now I know it's crazy because 9-8. He's a second-year head coach. So is D'Amico, and we have D'Amico winning the division. and he won a playoff game last year, and Steichen didn't get to the playoffs. He's finishing below him this year. I just think he impacts winning more than any coach in this division. I'm not saying D'Amico's not a good coach, but if for some reason he were to be out and Bobby Slowick, the OC, was to be head coach, I still think they're a really good football team. Are they 11-6? Maybe not. But if you take Shane Steichen away from the Colts, I don't know they win 4 games. I think he's that important. I think he's that important to Anthony Richardson. I think he's that important to the offense. He's a mastermind. I think he's one of the best offensive coaches in football. I mean, we've seen what's happened. Left Herbert. Herbert hasn't been the same since his rookie year. I still like him. We still like him. But has not, admittedly, not been the same since he had Steichen. Right? Carson Wentz's best year was with Shane Steichen. Right? Phillip Rivers' best year was with Frank Reich / Shane Steichen. Jalen Hurts' best year was with Shane Steichen, right? Like, there is a direct correlation here.
I think it's going to hinge a lot on how do you make Anthony Richardson work. Like, now you have to make him work. How does he look?
Sure.
Like, what can you do?
Well, that's his entire job.
Anyway, run us back through.
C.J. Stroud, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. Trevor Lawrence, Defensive Player. Hines Allen. Breakout Player Josh Downs, and Head Coach Shane Steichen.
There we go. All right. You can go find that on all the social medias. It's posted on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We kind of touch on it on all of our social media, so you can go find those in the link, theissuesports.com. So go check that out. We appreciate it. But